Okay, we asked to speak to Ontario Education Minister Stephen Lecce, but his office said he was unavailable. Mark Hancock is available. He's also CUPE's national president, and he joins me from outside Queen's Park. So, Mr. Hancock, Education Minister Stephen Lecce says he's filed a submission with the Ontario Labour Relations Board because this strike is illegal. What's your response to the minister's actions?
Well, I also heard him say he's going to use every tool available. I guess that's every tool except returning to the bargaining table and achieving a collective agreement that works for both my members and the government as well.
But he's called it illegal, and if your members stay out, they could each individually face $4,000 per day in fines. 55,000 people, that's $220 million a day. Can you really stand up in the face of such financial penalties?
We don't have a choice, David. This is our fundamental right to continue to exist as a union. The use of the Notwithstanding clause has taken away our right to go to the courts to deal with these issues that we say the Ontario government has overstepped and is attacking our rights as a labor union. But I got to tell you, it's so scary, not just for us as a labor union, but for Canadians all across this country. They should be up in arms, and I couldn't agree with the Prime Minister more than your introduction of this piece. He's bang on there.
But Mr. Hancock, whether you agree with what the Ford government has done or not, these are very severe penalties. You know, a total of $220 million for all of your members. Should it be applied to $500,000 a day for the union itself? I know CUPE is a big union. You've got a war chest, but you don't have one that big.
No, you know, I've heard the numbers, 200 million, 220 million. I've heard $1 billion over a week. And once you start talking those types of ridiculous numbers, I'm not going to pay attention to them anymore. This is about our fundamental right to exist and our fundamental right to continue to exist. And you can't get blood out of a stone. So we'll see what happens. My position right now is that this law is in fact illegal. And I'm hoping that the Prime Minister will step in. But if he doesn't, the Premier, the Ontario government, they can take us to court and they can try and get that money. But at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to stand up for workers and stand up for education here in Ontario.
You say you want to see the Prime Minister step in. He condemned this action, saying the Charter of Rights should not just be seen as a suggestion. What practically would you like to see Justin Trudeau do to intervene in this situation?
Well, I know it's extremely rare, but there are some powers that the federal government does have. And, I don't really want that either. What I would like is for this Premier, for this Education Minister, for this government to get serious and to reach out to us and say, hey, let's go to the bargaining table. I've seen news reports. I've seen people that aren't normally allies of the labor movement condemning Mr. Ford and the government for what they did yesterday. And I think he's having a wake-up call right now. And again, I don't want him to lose. I don't want to rub it in his face. But this is an opportunity for this Premier, for this government to show some leadership and to come and meet us in a bargaining room and sit down at the table, talk about their issues, we'll talk about our issues, and we'll get a deal that works for everybody, including our education workers, who are some of the lowest paid workers in this province.
You can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but my understanding is the last time that there was any exchange of proposals would have been last Sunday, when essentially Minister Lecce said, here's our offer, take it, or we're going to legislate it back. Has there been any movement in the position? You're pretty far apart on things like salary and some other fundamental issues. Any change at all throughout this week?
Well, our bargaining committee, and I'm not sitting at the bargaining table, we have 2,100 locals, 4,000 agreements across the country, and we have a lot of difficult rounds of bargaining. But we know how to find deals, and we're very good at that, and so are employers. And sometimes we'll have strike votes, and occasionally we'll have strikes or lockouts. And those are things that we're used to dealing with. But in this case, in the last 2 rounds of bargaining with education workers in this province, we got the deal 2 minutes before midnight. So I was in Vancouver flying out here Sunday to support our bargaining team. We were planning on bargaining Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Premier calls our leadership, our bargaining leadership, into a meeting and says, here, I'm going to slap this legislation on you unless you want to bargain in the next 3 or 4 hours, and these are the terms around that. That's not bargaining. That's threatening. That's holding a hammer over our heads. And as a result, we were available. There was some conversation with a mediator involved. We did make a move, but the government hasn't made any moves.
So with Bill 28 enacted, with Minister Lecce going to the Labour Board to have this declared an illegal strike, I mean, do you see an immediate path back to the bargaining table? Because it sure doesn't look like, based on the public commentary and actions today.
Well, I don't know. My crystal ball is not working so well these days, but I got to tell you, I'm more of a glass half full type of guy as well. So I'm hopeful that the government will reach out to us. We're all staying down at the Sheraton Hotel just down the road from here. We have meeting rooms available. The bargaining committee is still primarily around in town. So if we had a call from the Premier tonight or tomorrow, we'd be more than happy to get back and do some real bargaining.
So what happens on Monday? I mean, there was the walkout today, which the government has deemed illegal, and I anticipate they may try to impose some of the fines that they've threatened in their legislation. Will your workers be back in schools on Monday, or does this continue after the weekend?
This is continuing until we get a collective agreement that works for our members. Our leadership team have been talking with our members across this province, and of course not everybody is 100% on side, but I was able to participate in some of those calls, and I have to tell you, the resolve of the leaders and the resolve of our members to get a collective agreement that works, that pays them a living wage so that they don't have to utilize food banks, that they are able to put food on the kitchen table for their kids, that's the priority for us. And we'll be out until we get something that works for us.
Well, caught in the middle of this, Mr. Hancock, of course, are students and parents, and you've heard Minister Lecce make the argument the number one priority is to keep the kids in school, which is probably an effective political argument to make after what everyone went through with COVID. So given that dynamic and the disruption that all of this is causing, whoever is to blame, how long do you expect parents to sort of tolerate it and maybe stick with the fact that your members are out of school?
Well, look, none of us want to take this type of action, and that's especially true of education workers in this province. Our 55,000 members would much rather be in classrooms, in schools, working with kids and other education partners, rather than here protesting across this province. And you also have to remember that while we have 55,000 members in education in here, we have over 250,000 members in this province. And many of those members are parents with kids in the school system. So we don't just supply these services and then fly off to another planet. We're the recipients of those same services. So we understand exactly what parents are going through. And we really want an end to this so that we can go back to doing the jobs that we love doing for kids here in Ontario.
Okay, Mark Hancock, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.